That's it. Fellow citizens of the Bahamas, I greet you in the name of the Ethiopia-Africa Black International Congress. In doubt of what organization is that is an organization that was started in Jamaica on the presidents of Kwame Nkrumah's movement of African liberation after ushering Ghana into its independence in '57, March 6. The following year, King Emmanuel started the Ethiopia-Africa Black International Congress with a view of returning those who want to return to Africa through freedom, redemption, international repatriation, which is our aim and objective. We also have branches throughout the globe. Trinidad, Bahamas, been moving like a wildfire in Latin America, Chile, Costa Rica, Panama, Brazil, just to name a few of the Latin American countries. We also have branches in the United States, Miami branch, Britain, France, and we have planned true repatriation branches in Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and Ethiopia. Also South Africa. Okay. Given respect to our ancestors, I would like to start out with a quote from Dr. Edward Jah Blyden, my ancestor from St. Thomas, who is widely regarded as one of the fathers of Pan-Africa. Among nations civilized or uncivilized, and in all languages, life is presented as a journey, a pilgrimage. And because there are successive stages and changes, there is implanted in us a relentless and consistent desire to improve the present. Man never, but always to be blessed. And what I think my ancestor is saying, that in every successive generation, there's always those who stand to make things better. We had Malcolm X, Martin Luther King from the Civil Rights Movement. We had women's suffrage here in the Bahamas. We have all over the world. We have Nelson Mandela, but here in the Bahamas, the Rastafari movement has led the way in the realms of African spirituality from the 60s right up to today. We have been faced in the Bahamas with many forms of discrimination. I personally traveled to the French Antilles in Guadeloupe. I can remember being exposed to discrimination because of my race. All right. We understand that people of different races sometimes feel insecure by other races. We all in some way have discriminated in some way or the other. But when it comes to discrimination based on race, or discrimination in terms of to deprive one from the basic human needs like clothing, shelter, food, transportation, and communication, which is the basic tenets of human necessities. All right? That's when it becomes a human rights violation. And that's what I intend to address today in my presentation. I don't have a written presentation as such, but as we know, in recent years in the Bahamas, there has been a number of discriminations, matters of concern afforded to us by the Bahamas government. There's the Rastafari profiling, the horrific and tragic shootings that was commonplace in our society during the 80s, that kind of died down in the 90s when the Ethiopia Africa Black International Congress took to the street with demonstrations and lobbying for our human rights and petitioning the Bahamas government. First, as my brethren in Togo would say, internalizing our struggle through the teaching in our church. You know, as you know that we are a government, a parliament, a church, a state, and we also keep the Sabbath. I'm breaking my Sabbath to share such a timely issue of discrimination with you today. You know, one of the most outstanding cases we had is the Priest Anton Folks matter of where he was before the courts for a small amount of ganja, marijuana, healings, as we call it. And he asked not to have his locks cut when entered prison because it's a part of his faith, as many of the sects of the Rastafari community portray the locks as consecration, citing Numbers chapter 6. For me, it's not so much in that sense to me, because before Israel was a nation, the Africans had wore locks and practiced circumcision before Abraham. So I don't dwell so much on the religious side of things. I'm more interested in the socio-economic and political side of the movement. Okay? But Joan Sawyer then handed down an unprecedented court order that there's no reason to come upon this man's head, citing Numbers chapter 6 and also referring to Samson as a Nazarite and certain other Bible characters. Now, however, the brethren locks were still cut, and we had a redress to the local court system. When it reached before the courts, however, the government settled the matter outside of court by conceding, because there was no contest. All right, $15,000 was awarded, which is a drop in the bucket for a person locks, which is a part of that person being removed without their consent. In a dialogue with Sir Lyndon Pinland, he agreed that to cut a person locks against their will is the same as raping a woman. It's the same effect as raping a woman. So there's so many issues of human rights violation, discrimination that is being practiced in the Bahamas, besides just the incest that Amelet talked about, which is also timely. There's the situation of discrimination in the public schools, and I make no excuses for my community for not having our own school. I find no solace in trying to cover up for my movement's weakness or